Hello everyone. Today I will to show you how to configure the RESTful API by using the command line with a Linux with the expectation layer. Yeah, and follow him to configure. We have it's about 11 11 minutes. Okay, good luck.
In Java. My name is Kishan Iyer and I will be your instructor for this course. A little about myself first. I have a master's degree in computer science from Columbia University and have previously worked in companies such as Deutsche Bank and WebMD in New York. I presently work for Lunicorn, a studio for high quality video content. If you work in a team which has data or services to offer to any client, whether these are within or outside of your organization, you will almost certainly need to build web services. And for Java based applications, the most widely adopted technologies when building such services are SOAP and REST. These allow you to communicate with external applications in a standardized and scalable manner, which is also independent of their programming language. This course will introduce you to the use of the Jersey framework to build REST APIs in Java. You will begin by implementing a simple method which returns data in response to an HTTP GET request. While doing so, you get to cover the use of Jersey annotations in order to construct a URL to a particular web method and set it to respond to GET request. You will also construct a response to incoming requests, which includes HTTP status codes. Furthermore, you will cover the transmission of Java objects in the form of JSON structures as a response to an HTTP request. Once you have completed this course, you will have a broad understanding of how the Jersey library can be adopted to build REST APIs. This will lay the groundwork for you to explore more complex topics, such as developing a web service application that enables CRUD or create, read, update, and delete operations on a database.
Configure the REST API application. Yeah, look at it here.
Previously, in this learning path, we have seen what it takes in order to develop web services which implement the SOAP protocol. The SOAP protocol enables communication between two different applications, and all of this happens under the hood using XML. We will now move on to making use of the REST service in order to enable such communication. While REST is often considered a newer version of SOAP, that's not quite an accurate statement since SOAP is essentially a protocol while REST is an architectural style which can implement SOAP as the underlying protocol. We will discuss more of the features of REST as we move along, but first, let's set up our environment so that we can create web services which implement REST. So for that, I have brought up the shell on my machine and will now cd into an already created project workspace directory. If you are continuing from the implementation of a SOAP web services application, you should already have a Java web services folder. If not, well, you can simply create one in any directory on your file system. However, once you cd into it, let's create a subfolder within that for Java REST API. This is where we will build out a Java REST API application. And once the folder is ready, let's cd into it. And rather than building a project, including the entire project structure for a web application from scratch, we can build it out of an existing archetype or template. For that, we can make use of the Maven archetype generate command. So at this point, it is assumed that you already have Apache Maven set up on your system. And just for reference, I have Maven version 3.6.3. And in order to build out the stub of a project for the Java REST API, we'll run this command and we'll specify a number of different parameters following the dash uppercase D flags. The first of these is the group ID for this newly created.
Yes, this command line is to help you to generate the Maven in your projects. It automatically makes a group ID, artifacts ID, active, active type ID, and so on. Maven version, yeah, and for follow up.
Maven project. I'm going to set this to com.lunicon and then the artifact ID, which is more specific to the project itself. I'll just call this rest-app. Following that, we can specify the artifact out of which to build the project stub. And for this to serve as a web application, well, one of the best archetypes to use is maven-archetype-web app. We can also set a version of the archetype. I'm going to use 1.4, and then I'm going to disable interactive mode so that no further details are asked for and the default settings for Maven will be used. So let's just run this command, and soon enough, all of the artifacts required for a standard web project will be generated, and it should now be available in the current directory. However, before we open it up in an IDE and begin development work, let's set things up for when we actually deploy our application, and we will in fact deploy the app in an Apache Tomcat web server. So, I assume that you already have Apache Tomcat set up on your system, and if not, you can check out the Setting Up Apache Tomcat video from the previous course in this learning path. And once you have everything ready, well, let's head over to the bin directory of your Tomcat installation. I have brought up a new shell session.
Okay, and you need to set up the Apache Tomcat first. Yeah, you can search Google to install the Apache Tomcat first. And after you get ready, you can the cd10 directory from the bin and follow up. Yeah, thank you again.
For this, and from the home directory, I'm going to cd over into project/server/Apache Tomcat 10.0.4 and into the bin directory of this Tomcat version. And note that Tomcat 10 is the latest available version of Tomcat at the time of this recording. If you are using an older version, well, things might be a little different in terms of the behavior of the app, and I'll try to point this out at every instance I can. Once in the bin directory though, well, it's time for us to start up the Apache Tomcat instance. For that, we can run the startup script, which is startup.sh, and then we can make sure that all of the logs which are published to the catalina.out file in the logs folder of Apache Tomcat are published to the console here. And for that, we make use of the tail command. Just a quick note, if you don't have the permissions to run the startup script, you may need to make use of the chmod command in order to give yourself execute privileges. However, once that is done and you execute this command, you will soon see the log messages generated from starting up Tomcat on your screen. And right at the bottom, you should see the server startup message. You'll also observe that in my case, Apache Tomcat is running.
Yeah, you can start Tomcat by command line or manual which you want. Yeah, and I hope so you can do it.
At the default port of 8080. And then to confirm that the Tomcat installation has been set up correctly, we can just pull up a browser and navigate over to the host where Tomcat is running. So I'll just head over to localhost port 8080. Then if you see a page such as this one, it means that the Tomcat setup is correct. Alright then, now that Tomcat is running,
Yeah, when you can start a successful Tomcat look like this, the picture. Yeah, you can tap the local host. You see port 8080. Yeah, and you look like this.
it's now time for us to build an app which can be deployed to it. More specifically, an app which implements the REST API, also known as a RESTful application. And for that, Well, we already have the stub of a project set up on our file system. That is the one which we generated using Maven. And now to open it up, I'm going to make use of the IntelliJ IDE. Note that you can use any IDE you're comfortable with, but if you're not on IntelliJ, the exact steps which you need to follow may be just a little different from mine. Overall, however, we will be making use of Maven in order to package our application, and then simple command line tools in order to deploy it. However, if you are on IntelliJ, you can follow along with me and choose the option to open an already existing project. At this point, we can just navigate over in our file systems to where we just created our REST API project. So in my case, this is inside the Java Web Services folder within my project folder. And then we'll open up Java REST API. And what opens up here is the REST app directory. And this is the one which includes a pom.xml. Let's go ahead and open up the POM file, which, just in case you're unfamiliar with it, is a project descriptor file for a Maven project. And this includes a lot of configurations for the project itself, including some metadata, and importantly, also a list of the dependencies for the project. Towards the top, you'll observe that the group ID and artifact ID are what we specify.
Yeah, you can look at reverse step. You can command line and it is automatic generate group ID and dependency. Also a lot of build from in the pom.xml. You can look it automatic. Yeah, follow it.
When we generated this project stub using the Maven archetype generate command. The version by default has been set to 1.0-snapshot, and the packaging, given that this is a web app, has been set to WAR. WAR is short for Web Application Resource or Web Application Archive, and it is essentially a variation of a jar file. And what this boils down to is that when we choose to build and then package our application, all of the compiled versions of the source files, as well as dependencies and other resources, will be packaged into a single unit called a WAR file. We will soon see exactly what that means. For now, however, I'm going to minimize the project pane so that the POM file is more clearly visible, and then make a few changes. First of all, there is the URL which we can specify corresponding to our application, and this is just useful metadata. I'm just going to set this to loonycon.com. Beyond that, we can set the compiler version in the property section. I'm going to set the compiler source and target both to version 15 of the JDK. At the time of this recording, this is the latest available version of Java. And then there is a separate section for the dependencies. As implied by the name, this is where we can place in the libraries which our application depends on. And I'm just going to make 3 new entries here. As touched upon earlier, we will be making use of the Jersey framework in order to build out our RESTful application. And Jersey itself is an implementation of the JAX RS API specifications. The Jersey framework does include a bundle of different libraries which we can use, and we start off by including 2 of these as our dependencies. The first of these is the Jersey container servlet. This will enable the deploy of our app inside a servlet container, which means that it can be hosted by Apache Tomcat. And we will also need to make use of Jersey-HK2, which is Jersey's dependency injection system. You'll notice that I am using versions 3.0.1 for each of these. However, keep in mind that if you are on an older version of Tomcat, say version 9 or older, you may need to switch over to version 2.33 or older. You may also require the Jakarta Activation API, which can enable the discovery of operations and other features. And again, if you plan to deploy to an older version of Tomcat, you will need to use version 1.2.0 of the JavaX activation API. Once the POM file is ready, however, you may see some of these dependencies highlighted in red, and this is because these have not yet been loaded into the local Maven repo. In order to pull from the remote Maven repository into the local one, if you are on IntelliJ, you can head over and hit the Reload Maven project button. Once that is done, well, soon enough, the dependencies will be pulled into your local file system, and that concludes the changes needed at the moment to the POM. However, let's head over now to the project pane in the IDE, since we will now need to go ahead and edit the web.xml file, which you can find inside the path source main web app, webinf, and web.xml. We'll cover the web.xml file as well as work on our source code for the web services in the next video. Having worked on the pom.xml in the previous video, where we added in the dependencies to the Jersey framework, it's now time for us to work on the web.xml file of the project. This is the deployment descriptor file for our web application, and it includes configurations for the deployment of an app into a servlet container. And I'll just paste in the contents of the web.xml for our own RESTful app. This will have the name of Java REST API, and then we define the servlet which needs to be loaded. The name of the servlet is my JAX-RS servlet. Note that JAX-RS is the specification which Jersey implements in order to build out REST APIs, and the class for the servlet is org.glassfish.jersey.servlet.servletContainer. So this is a built-in servlet container class available in the Jersey framework. And then to point the servlet container to the class files which make up our application, we set a parameter in the form of an initialization or init param. The name of this parameter is jersey.config.server.provider.packages, and this needs to point to a Java package containing the classes corresponding to our RESTful application. So the package which we will create just a little later is com.jaxrs web service. Following that, we set the servlet container to load when the application starts up. So that takes care of some portion of the servlet container definition, but we're not quite done. We also need to map this servlet to a specific set of URLs. This is where we have the servlet mapping. So we map the myJAX-RS servlet, which we have just defined, to all possible URL patterns within our app. So we set the URL pattern value.
Yeah, that does mean you that servlet to help you to set up and it is automatic make a web XML index.csv. And that helps you to make connect and you look at like this and we just it's symbol to make the cost and it is to show you in the browser. Yeah, follow up.
Value here to /star. When we begin coding up our web application, we will map various methods to different URLs, and all of them will be hosted by this servlet container. And that servlet container in turn will run inside Apache Tomcat. Just so you have a full view of the web.xml, I'll just minimize the project pane, and you can now take a look at the full schema location at the top. However, it's now time for us to move on and write some code for our web services, which can communicate using the REST API. I'll minimize the project pane again, and now inside the main directory, and we will now need to create a new Java package, but first we will need to create a new directory for all the Java sources, and the name of this folder is Java. Once we do that, we can right click and then create a new package. The name of this package, well, I'm going to set this to com.jaxrs JAX RS web service, and while you don't need to give it this exact same name, you must ensure that it matches the param value which we supply to the init param corresponding to the package which the Jersey framework will look for. So we now have the package which will include the REST API implementations. And as for the implementations themselves, let's start off with something simple. Inside this package, we will now create a new Java class. And since it is a basic application which we will first implement, let's call this one Hello World Service. And once we have the class stub in place, I'll go ahead and hide the project pane and then paste in the code. Before diving into the details, let me explain at a somewhat high level what exactly we plan to do here. When a client application submits a GET request to the URL/greeting in our app, we want to return to them a greeting in the form of a string. A GET request, just in case you're unfamiliar with it, is the way for a client application to request a resource from a server when making use of the REST API. This involves a different way of thinking as compared to the SOAP protocol. A GET request when using the REST API usually means that you only wish the server to read data and send it over to you, and no write operations or updates are required at the server end. With that said, let's get down to the implementation. We start off by importing jakarta.ws.rs.get, and this is an annotation which is used with a method which can respond to a GET request. Next, we also import jakarta.ws.rs.path. This is also an annotation which we can attach to a class, and this effectively binds a URL or URI pattern to the Java methods defined within the class. For now, we also import jakarta.ws.rs.core.response. However, we will make use of that a little later. A quick thing to note, if you do plan to deploy to an older version of Tomcat, that is version 9 or older, you will have referenced an older version of Jersey in your dependencies, say 2.33 and older, in which case your imports should reference Java X instead of Jakarta. Alright then, now that we have two different annotations which are imported here, how exactly can we put them to use? Well, first of all, we have a class definition here called Hello World Service, and this has been annotated with path. When we do that, we can specify the URL pattern which needs to map to this class, and we set this to /greeting. What this means is that when a client sends over a request to the path/greeting corresponding to our web app, one of the methods in the annotated class will be invoked. Let's move along to the methods then. To start off, we only have a single method. This is called myGreeting, and its return type is string. So it will return a greeting in the form of a string, and you can see that we simply submit the message, "Welcome to the world of REST APIs in Java." So this is the method which will be invoked when a client submits a request over to the URL/greeting. However, it is not just any type of request for which myGreeting will be called. It's only a GET request which will invoke this method. As I had mentioned earlier, there are different types of HTTP requests depending on the kind of request being made. A GET request is a request to get data from the server, and the data which will be returned to the client is the string which you see in front of you. Alright then, let's make sure that our application works, and for that, it's now time for us to build, package, and deploy our app. To do that, we will make use of the Maven tool, and we can run it from the command line. In my case, I'm going to bring up my shell from the terminal session which is available in IntelliJ itself. So pulling this up takes me over to the root of my project directory, which is precisely where my pom.xml is located. And then to build and package our application, we can run the command maven clean package. This is in fact two commands which we execute here, maven clean and maven package. The clean command will clear out any previously generated build artifacts, and if this is the first time you're running this command, there'll be no such artifacts to speak of. The maven package command will build the application and then package it into a WAR file. That is the format which we had set in the packaging field in the pom.xml. So let's just proceed with this command, and soon enough, you should see a build success message. And if you'd like to see all of the artifacts which are generated, well, I'm going to minimize this console output here and then head over in IntelliJ to the project pane. If the view has been reloaded, you'll observe that there is a newly created directory called target which now appears within the project. And upon expanding it, there are a number of different generated directories, and significantly there is a rest-app.war file. This is the file which includes the compiled classes of our application, also the dependencies, and any other resources needed for our web services app to run. To check out its contents, we can make use of the tar utility, and for that, let's pull up the terminal once again and then run the command tar tvf against the rest-app.war file. This of course is inside the target folder. This will render the contents of the WAR file in the form of a table, and this is the output which is generated. At the very top, there is the manifest file, and this includes useful information including metadata about the archive itself. And scrolling further along, we get a glimpse into the jar file contents. Importantly, you'll observe that there is a Jersey client.jar file, and though this is not a direct dependency as specified in our POM, it is required by one of the Jersey dependencies which we have specified. Scrolling further along, we'll observe that the compiled version of our Hello World service source file, so hello world service.class, is packaged within this WAR file. There are some Jersey HK2 jar files as well, and we can see a whole host of dependencies packaged here, including the Jersey container servlet. So we now know that this WAR file includes our compiled class as well as the dependent jar files, which means that it is possible for us to make use of it. For that to happen, however, this needs to be deployed to our Tomcat web server. We will do precisely that and also test out our app in the next video. In the previous video, we coded up our application to implement a simple REST API call. So, it is capable of responding to a GET request submitted to the URL/greeting with a simple message, "Welcome to the world of REST APIs in Java." We also packaged the app into a WAR file using Maven, and now it's time for us to deploy it. For that to happen, all we need to do is to copy over this WAR file in the target directory over to our Apache Tomcat web apps directory. And the moment we do that, first of all, let's confirm that the deployment has taken place. I have pulled up my file explorer and will navigate over to the directory where Apache Tomcat has been saved. So this is the Apache Tomcat folder, and within that, we head over to web apps. And you'll observe that the rest-app.war file is located here, and significantly, its contents have been unpacked into a rest-apps directory. Furthermore, if we head over to the shell session where we started up Apache Tomcat, right at the bottom in the logs, we can see that the deployment of our rest-app.war has been picked up by Apache Tomcat and that the deployment is complete. What remains then is for us to test out our deployed app. And for that, let's pull up a browser and then navigate over to the URL for which we have a web service in our app. So this is localhost port 8080/rest-app. This is of course the name of the deployed war file, and then /greeting. /greeting of course is the URL which maps to the Hello World service class. That class, you will recollect, includes a myGreeting method which is capable of responding to a GET request submitted to the /greeting URL. And in fact, when we navigate in a web browser to this URL, it is a GET request which will be submitted. So let's see whether the greeting appears in the browser when we head over to this URL. And sure enough, it does. So we have now successfully built an application which is capable of responding to a GET request. So this is the power of REST APIs. It is possible for us to invoke functions which lie on a remote server using any client application, including a web browser. Now, I did mention that when we navigate to a URL from a web browser, it is a GET request which is submitted. However, there are other utilities which are available and are very easy to use, which can also be used to submit HTTP requests. And in fact, they make it easy to send different types of HTTP requests. Specifically, let's now make use of curl. This is a popular command line utility which should be available by default on most flavors of Linux and also macOS. And if you just bring up a new shell session, all you need to do is to run the command curl followed by a URL. This will submit a GET request to the corresponding URL. So when we submit this to REST app/greeting, what is returned to us is the message from our API. Now the communication between the client application, which in this case is curl, and our server app, which is hosted by Tomcat, happens via HTTP. This means that we have submitted a GET request using HTTP, and then our application has sent over a response also using HTTP. This means that the response not only includes this string message, which we see here, but there are also HTTP headers. And to view the headers in the response and not be concerned with the response body, well, this is the command which we can use in curl. So we run curl with the -i flag and then specify the URL to which the request is to be submitted. And these are the headers in the response. We will dive into the specifics of the response a little later. And in fact, we will see how it is possible for us to construct a response object. However, let's take a quick look at the default contents of the header. You'll observe that the content type has been set to text/HTML, and we will see later on how it is possible to construct a JSON response in order to communicate objects. Also, the first line in this output, pointing to an HTTP 404 status message, in fact, means that the requested resource was not found. This is something which we can address soon and return an HTTP 200 message to indicate that everything was okay with the request. Let's move on back over to the IDE and make a few code changes. The way things are in our Hello World service at the moment, we have a single URL, namely /greeting, which is mapped to the Hello World service class. This means that this class can only include one method which is capable of responding to a GET request. However, what if we wanted multiple such methods? Well, for that, we will need to make a few changes. First of all, let's configure the path mapping to this class so that it is the URL /ws which maps over to Hello World service. And then we can define a separate path for individual methods. So in addition to the GET annotation, we can also attach the path annotation to the myGreeting method and then set the path to /greeting. The full URL corresponding to this method will then be /ws/greeting. This definition will allow us to define multiple methods in the same class, each of which maps to a different URL path. So let's redefine the myGreeting method now, specifically by returning a response object rather than a plain old string. And for that, we can make use of the response which we have imported, which is jakarta.ws.rs.core.response. And for that, well, this is the new definition of myGreeting. So we still construct the same message string. However, we don't send it as is, but in fact as the body of a response. The way to do that is to create a new response object. And first of all, we set its status to 200 so that the status does not show up as 404 as it previously did. And importantly, a status code of 200 also conveys that everything is okay. And then for the response, we define the entity to be returned. We will later see that it is possible for us to pass along objects in here. However, in this case, we simply pass along the message string. And then we invoke the build method in order to build a response out of the different attributes which we have just specified for the response, specifically the status code and the message. Furthermore, you'll observe that the return type of the myGreeting method is now a response rather than a string. And now to test out these changes, let's pull up the terminal and then rebuild and package the app. So we run maven clean package. The build success message should pop up in just a moment. And then let's copy over the newly created WAR file over to the Tomcat web apps folder. Heading over to the shell where Tomcat was started, we can confirm that the deploy has gone through. And then to submit a GET request to the endpoint, let's pull up the browser once again and head over to this new URL, rest-app/ws/greeting. The URL /ws of course points to our Hello World service class, and within that /greeting over to the myGreeting method. The return type of myGreeting is now set to be a response rather than a string. However, what we observe in the web page is in fact identical to the previous version of myGreeting. This is because the web browser merely renders the body of the response which is returned. And to test out the differences, let's head back over to the shell and make use of curl once again. So we submit the curl request, specifically a GET request to the same URL, rest-app/ws/greeting. And it is the same body which is returned, which of course contains the same message. But now, let's take a look at the headers by submitting the same curl request but with the -i flag. And this time, the headers are in fact different. First of all, the status code at the top now says 200 exactly as defined within our response object. So 200 of course represents that everything is okay. And the content type, which was previously text/html, now is simply text/plain. So now that we know how to construct a response object, in the next video, we will move on to GET requests with parameters. In the previous video, we introduced a few changes to our Hello World service source file. So we have now introduced a path for both the class as well as the myGreeting method inside it. This means that we can define another method inside the same Hello World service class, which is also capable of responding to a GET request as long as it is to a different URL path. That is what we will now explore, and also how a GET request can process a parameter. To demonstrate that, let's first replace this myGreeting implementation with the old one. So this one returns a simple string, "Welcome to the world of REST APIs in Java." And then following that, let's add in a second method definition. This is also called myGreeting. However, we have overloaded that function since this version of the method takes in a parameter. Moreover, that parameter is passed on in the form of the URL path. So, what exactly does this translate to? Well, first of all, we attach the get annotation to this method. So this is also capable of responding to a get request. And for the path, we set this to /greeting/param. So the parameter to this method will be passed along in the URL after greeting slash. So we define this parameter inside curly braces and give it a name of param. And then, well, let's get down to the method signature. So the return type first of all is a response, and then let's move along to the parameter, and we set this by making use of the path param annotation. This is the annotation which we use in order to extract parameters from the URL corresponding to the method, and we set the value of the path param to param, which is the same as the parameter which we specify in the URL. So whatever we pass along after greeting slash will be assigned to the argument of name to the myGreeting method. This parameter will be cast as a string. If things seem a little abstract right now, it'll all become much clearer when we test out this function later on. But for now, let's just go along. So we have a parameter which has been extracted from the URL. And what exactly do we do with it? Well, we construct a new message string. So we say welcome followed by the parameter, and then this is the world of web services. And then using the message string, we construct a new response object. So we set the status code to 200 and set the entity to the message string, and then build out the response and then return it. So we have two different methods implemented here. One maps to the URL /ws/greeting, and the second one maps to /ws/greeting/ and then a parameter. The question now is, will these code changes work? Of course, the surefire way to find out is to pull up the terminal and then rebuild and package the app. Once the Maven clean package command has run, well, a new war file will be generated, which we copy over to the web apps directory. And once the changes have been picked up by Tomcat, let's head over once again from the browser to restapp/ws/greeting. So this will submit a GET request to this URL, and this should invoke the first of the myGreeting methods, which does not include a parameter. So we see the standard text message returned to us in the body. However, what now if we navigate over to this URL? This is restapp/ws/greeting/Lunicorn. So with this, Lunicorn should be picked up as the parameter by the overloaded myGreeting method, and we should have a new string returned to us which includes the Lunicorn name. So let's submit this GET request, and we do see welcome Lunicorn in the return response. So two different GET requests now return two different responses. One of them is capable of accepting a parameter and then constructing a new string out of it. And now let's move on to a few different ways in which to define a response to an HTTP request. Heading back over to our source,